У нас, значит, сегодня сюжет. Тын-тын-тын-тын-тын-тын-тын. Не знаю по времени, сколько мы будем тонуть. Тут, смотрите, у нас какой-то тур. Сочи утонули. А чему радоваться, что Сочи утонули? Так, значит, Виктор, я не знаю, что вот это такое, но знаю, что вот это как раз-таки затопление наше. Ой. Капитан Смит. Видите, женщины и детей. Ну вот.
Women and children. This way. Women and children.
Head for that ship on the horizon. Transfer your passengers and tell their captain to come at once. We require urgent assistance.
Surely they can see our rockets, sir.
If they can, they are not responding. As quickly as you can.
Aye, aye, sir.
Quickly now. Women and children.
Господи, боже мой.
Quickly, the boats are leaving.
Ну, тут знаете, что плохо здесь? Все
Все
говорят по-английски. Ребята, пожалуйста, по-русски. Я здесь, походу, одна единственная, что ли,
Women and
русская.
children only, sir.
Russian,
Please, sir,
Russian.
can't you see my wife needs help with the children?
Sorry, sir. Captain's orders.
What's
Ну,
the
кстати,
meaning?
говорят, что русские
Is this
были
a
на корабле.
Only a precaution, sir. Everyone will be back aboard in good time.
John, I can't manage without you. I need you.
We'll just have to for now.
But
Don't worry, Marie. I'll get on another boat. You go ahead with the children.
Daddy, I don't want to go without you.
John, I don't see any men boarding lifeboats.
I'm sure there's other boats further down letting men board. Right, David, help your mother and sister board.
Yes, Dad.
I'm sorry, sir. Women and children only.
For God's
He's just
sake,
a boy.
Видите,
What age is he?
не
He's
пускают
only
мальчика.
16.
He'll have to stay on board with the other men.
God's sake.
Do something, John.
Is there nothing you can do?
Потому что говорят, что он уже взрослый,
Afraid not,
поэтому
sir.
его не пускают.
Captain's orders.
Hey, the officers are letting the boys leave on the other side. You must hurry.
Thanks, friend. Marie, take the baby. Look after Emily. We'll get on another boat.
Вон, смотрите, Молли.
Emily.
Непотопляемая
Daddy loves you
Молли
very
Браун
much.
сидит
Be good for your mother
Вон.
and sister. We'll see you again soon.
в черной шляпе.
Daddy, don't
Смотрите,
go.
видите? В
You
черном
have
платье.
to
Это
come
вот
with
Молли
us.
Браун.
We won't be able to find you.
Shush now, love. You're going on the boat with your mom and your sister. We'll be along shortly, I promise.
Daddy, I don't want to go.
Women and children.
Go
This
straight to the
boat,
next
leave
boat.
it. Hurry now.
Do what
This
you
way,
must
please.
to get aboard. Do you understand?
I will, ma'am, I will. Don't worry.
Mind him, John.
Right, Emily. Time to go. Be brave.
No.
Here,
No,
let me help.
Daddy,
Emily,
please.
go. You have
I
to
want
go with your mother.
With you.
Go.
Please let me go with
No.
you. Dad.
You'll be all right. Be
Please.
good, child. We'll see you soon.
We'll head straight for another boat.
Жалко,
Women and
что я
children.
ничего не понимаю на
Final call.
английском.
Right, it's time to go.
No.
She must be terrified.
Oh, the poor thing.
Все, нас усадили в шлюпку.
Ready to ropes.
Вот Молли Браун.
Bye. Bye, Emily. Bye,
All
Marie.
away.
Daddy.
There, sweetheart. They'll be fine.
Thank you.
My daughter was the same growing up.
Нас
Father's
опускают,
favorite.
ребята.
Do you believe there's any real danger?
Oh no, dear. I saw men locking the watertight doors as I left my cabin. I'm sure we will be back on board soon.
Hey, how do we get to the lifeboats? Hey, how do we get to the lifeboats?
Oh dear. Do the steerage have their own boats?
I don't know. There should be boats in the third-class decks, but I haven't seen any.
Surely there must be extra boats kept elsewhere. Otherwise, how can all the passengers leave the ship?
How's your ankle, Helen?
Так,
You took quite a tumble boarding the boat.
Swollen. I think it may be broken.
Oh dear. When we get back on board, Dr. O'Loughlin can look over it.
По крайней мере, дорогие мои, вам повезло. Вы спаслись. Все, кто в этой шлюпке, вы спаслись. А остальные люди погибли.
This is not quite the ending to our adventure that I was expecting. Do you remember Father's face when we were...
Ой, господи.
Steady forward and lower away astern.
Steady forward. Lower together, men.
Hold off! I can't manage this boat with only one seaman.
Are there any sailors aboard? Present yourself.
Ребят, ну как бы поаккуратней там, ладно?
Need another hand. I am a yachtsman, sir.
Не картоху опускаете.
If you're seaman enough to get onto that boat, you can go.
Тут вообще-то дети.
Swing over it, that loose rope.
Хамло.
Ready?
Oh my goodness.
Батюшки. Что там?
There, by the oarlock. Thank you. Ready! Lower away! Lower together.
It's so dreadfully cold tonight.
Almost there, Mother.
How long must we sit in these boats?
Till morning. Be glad you're in here and not up there.
I was an unpleasant man. Mass was lovely this morning.
How nice the captain attended.
Yes, this is his last journey commanding a ship.
Such a beautiful
Здесь
ship to retire.
именно вот реально вот будет то время, то есть получается, что где-то около 40 минут, где-то мы будем отъезжать, то есть вот полную в реальном времени. Шлюпок, да, в 2 раза меньше. Но я вам больше скажу, что если бы было бы шлюпок столько, сколько нужно, их бы просто не успели все опустить. Люди бы по-любому погибли. Я вчера смотрела фильм Джеймса Кэмерона 20 лет спустя. Он рассказывал. Господи.
Get that plug in! The boat will founder!
I have it.
You there! Stand on that plug! Make sure it doesn't come out!
Все?
Man the oars! We need
Нас
to leave
опустили
this
на
ship!
воду?
Her suction will pull us under!
Да. Ой, господи, ребята. Ой. Мы отплываем.
Pull! Hurry, damn you!
Where are we heading?
Towards the lights on the horizon, just off the port bow.
Боже мой.
Pull! Put your backs into it!
We can help row.
No! The men will row.
Слушайте, а какой он был размером? Как вы думаете? Вот, если по дому решать. Вот 12-этажный дом. Как думаете? Боже мой, какой он огромный. Смотрите, какой он огромный. Боже мой. Вот это да. Ой, собака! Какая прелесть! Какая... Ой! Боже мой! Тут все, и детки, и собачки. Боже мой, какая прелесть! Какая маленькая бусинка. Я тоже думала, что 12-13 этажей. Но если 9 этажей, ребят, буду верить вам, что 9 этажей.
I doubt the other ship will even see us approach.
Ma'am, can you hold this, please?
Ah, much better.
О, Господи.
Let's hope they see us.
А что за... Там сообщение было неполное про феминисток. Оно неполное. Ой, боже мой. Ребятки, так страшно. Боже, посмотрите. У меня сейчас слезы в глазах навернутся. Боже мой. 50 метров с трубами. Обалдеть. Посмотрите, какой могущественный корабль. И знаете, что я вам скажу? Если кто-то хочет снова побывать на Титанике, в 2022 году отправляется Титаник 2 по тому же маршруту, по которому отправился в первый Титаник.
Best we keep that
Вот,
baby
билеты
warm.
стоят от $800 до $50 000.
Yes, Mom.
Отправится он в 2022 году, но отправление будет из Дубая. Вот, Дубай.
I wonder if the others made it to the
Вот.
boats.
I hope they did. The
И
boats must be
потом
all in the
он,
water by now.
то есть он из Дубая отправится в то место, откуда он отправился, и поплывет в
We were allowed to go up
Нью-Йорк.
to the boats, but the men are being held
Точно
in the
такой же
second-class
корабль, он
dining
уже
hall.
построен.
That's dreadful. Why aren't they allowed up to
Да,
the
он
boat?
уже
They
построен,
have to
все,
wait until
он
all
уже
the
готов.
passengers have left the ship.
But I did see Mr. Morjay on deck,
Его там
and the head
чуть-чуть
chef.
там
So
доделывают,
they might have been
но он
let
прям
early.
полная
Oh, I
копия.
hope so.
Все прям один в
The
один,
ship is listing
полностью.
quite badly
Только
now.
улучшена безопасность. И шлюпок будет в 2 раза
The lights
больше.
don't seem to be getting closer.
Perhaps they're just reflections underwater.
No. they're
Но
definitely
многие
lights from
утверждают,
another
что он
ship.
повторит
We were signaling
историю
them
своего
earlier.
They
брата.
look like stars to me.
Keep rowing towards the lights. Captain's orders.
Поэтому, если у кого-то есть $800,
Allow one of the women to
если
steer the
кто-то
boat. It's a
хочет
perfectly calm
помереть,
night.
You
я,
row,
конечно,
sir. I
надеюсь,
will remain
что
in command of this boat.
Титаник
The
2
women should be allowed to
не
row.
потонет, все
No,
будет
Rowing
хорошо
will
и все
keep
будет
us warm,
прекрасно.
and we'll reach that ship in half the
Паровые
time.
машины. Говорят, да, но только
I am in
улучшены.
charge of this boat. The women are not to row.
Oh my! Look at the angle of our ship.
But it's unsinkable. Surely?
She'll
Видите?
sink.
But
Люди
the
пищат.
watertight doors should keep her afloat.
Смотрите, у него носик погрузился, ребятки. Носик погрузился уже.
It's just a matter of time.
What about those not in
Серия
lifeboats?
«Корабли невезучие». Совершенно верно. Я согласна с тобой, Максим. Реально, что Олимпик, что Британик. Корпус клепанный. Да, клепанный. Да, я смотрела фотки. Я видела фотки, как его делают. Не сварной. Вроде варят. Посмотри в интернете. Набери «Титаник» 2022 год. И ты увидишь там фотки, как его делают. Вы сейчас будете ржать, его делают китайцы. Блин, так темно. Ребята, у меня тоже темно. Ой, у вас тоже темно, как у меня, я не вижу толком ничего. Боже. Да, китайцев дебит. Да, они там сейчас повсюду фоткаются на нем. Ой, смотрите, это льдины плавают белые. Боже, смотрите, попочка поднимается. Боже мой, ребята. Ломается.
There's nothing we can do.
We must go back to the ship.
No. It's too late.
Знаете, это очень страшно. Боже.
Keep pulling. We must get to safety. Suction.
Yes, deliver us from me.
Все, он ушел. Ой, ребята. Ой, боже, бедные люди, посмотрите. Ой, посмотрите, почти никого не осталось.
We must go back.
No. If we go back, they will swamp the boat.
People are dying. Can you not hear them?
It's our lives now, not theirs.
You cannot leave them. Please go back.
There's nothing there but a lot of stiffs.
People are still
Его нет.
alive.
We aren't
Такой
going
могущественный,
back.
такой
That's
большой.
final.
Все, его больше нет.
I hope you will be able to live with
Он
yourself
был
after
только
this.
что, весь корабль.
What about Daddy?
Ребята, это реально, это страшно. Я бы не хотела повторять такую судьбу. 2208 человек на борту. 1496 погибших ребят. Обалдеть. Карпатия, видите? Это фотки уже с Карпатии были. Разговор в лодке из фильма. Ну, вообще, как Джеймс Кэмерон сказал, что все разговоры, которые были в фильме, очень многие, это были реальные разговоры, потому что те, кто спасся, они рассказывали своим родственникам, то есть кто родился потом. И они уже хранят вот эту историю, и они рассказали ему, то есть их внуки, правнуки. Так что у нас там дальше? У нас дальше еще что-то. Вот, смотрите, short tour, long tour. Ребятушки, мне нужно перевести, что такое short tour и long tour. Хорошие мои. Давайте, вы же у меня умные. Short tour и long tour. Тур – это понятно, а вот short и long. Ага, короткий и длинный тур. Спасибо большое. Спасибо большое. Спасибо. Так. Шорт, видимо, это short. Это длинный, да, тур? Это длинный тур. Кукусечки мои. Шорт это длинный? Или короткий, судя по всему? Нет, короткий, да? Короткий. Шорт это короткий. Ну что, выбираем короткий тур или длинный тур? Спасибо, спасибо за перевод, спасибо. Какой выбираем тур? Короткий или длинный? По Титанику. А ты когда готовилась, что шорт это короткий? Потому что как бы шортики, да? Как шортики. Слово шорт короткий, да, шортики. Давайте длинный тур. А то если я сейчас прекращу, то трансляция сейчас прекратится. Ой, так быстро он затонул, жалко, ребятушки, так жалко, блин. Так жаль, господи, как же это... Ребята, это вот реально это страшно. Когда ты видишь это все своими глазами, конечно, это очки очками. Мне не сложно, ребят, мне абсолютно не сложно. Я восхищена этой историей. Я люблю очень «Титаник». Вот, и я маме сказала, я говорю, мама, у меня будет 800 баксов. 800 баксов я поеду. Ой. Так он... А что это такое?
Welcome to the Titanic VR guided tour.
Опять, что ли?
We are currently 3.8 kilometers below the surface of the North Atlantic and 100 meters east of the bow. This submersible is on autopilot. However, you can adjust your spotlight using the far left lever. Please keep your arms and legs inside the vehicle at all times. I'll provide you with information about locations as we pass them, so please sit back, relax and enjoy the ride.
Ребят, это тур.
The RMS Titanic was the second White Star Line Olympic-class ocean liner, the first being RMS Olympic and the third being HMHS Britannic. She was 269 metres long, 28 metres wide and 72 metres tall from the bottom of her keel to the top of her masts. At 46,328 tons, she was the largest ship built at the time, being only slightly bigger than Olympic. Olympic and Titanic were the 400th and 401st hulls laid by shipbuilders Harland and Wolff in their Belfast shipyard in Northern Ireland. The two ships were built side by side, with work on the Olympic begun first. Everything on
понимаю, что
RMS
это
Titanic
маленькая
was
история.
massive.
То есть
This
сейчас у нас
center
как бы
anchor
маленькая
was at the time
экскурсия.
the largest anchor
То,
forged
что
by hand
было, то,
and
что я
weighed
вам
in at
делала
over
на первой
15
трансляции,
tons.
только я рулила
The
сама, а
center
здесь
anchor
управляет
and the two
компьютер.
bower anchors
И
were
мы с
made
вами
by Noah
плаваем.
Hingley and Sons
Вот
in
здесь
their
девочка
workshop in Dudley,
рассказывает всё.
England. The anchors were transported to Belfast by horse,
Джеймс
train
Кэмерон
and ship
рассказывал,
before being
что на
installed.
«Титаник» нужно смотреть первое,
It
то есть
took
первым
3 years to
взглядом
construct
именно с
Titanic,
носа.
but by the 2nd of
То есть
April
он как
1912,
раз-таки
Titanic was completed and taken
дает
out to the Irish
первоначальные
Sea
такие
for her
ощущения
trials.
как раз-таки с носа.
She was certified as seaworthy by the
Когда
British
Джеймс
Board of
спускался
Trade and
вниз,
ready for her
он
maiden
увидел
voyage.
его сбоку.
She
И
would
он
be
говорит,
servicing the
я сначала не
transatlantic
понял,
route,
что
a
это.
journey from Southampton,
А когда
England, to
спустился,
New
я не
York,
помню, как
USA,
звали мужчину,
with
который
stops
обнаружил
at
его в
Cherbourg, France, and
1985
Queenstown,
или
Ireland.
1986 году, он увидел тоже его
RMS
сбоку, и он
Titanic
сначала думал,
carried
что
mail and
это,
cargo as well
китайская
as
стена.
passengers. She
Вот.
had 6
И он не
cargo
понял
hatches
сначала,
with numbers
что
1,
именно
2
он
and 3
увидел.
forward and
Вот.
4,
И он
5
увидел
and
его
6
сбоку.
aft. On our
Именно там,
left is the
где,
number 1 hatch,
получается, где
the
каюта и
access
розовая
point for the
краска.
forwardmost
Вот там он
cargo
его
hold.
увидел. А
The
Джеймс
hatch cover can be
немножечко
found lying
чуть-чуть
about
поближе к
100 meters
носу
in front
он
of the bow.
увидел.
It was blown
Вот.
off this hatch when the bow
Поэтому
impacted the ocean floor and the
лучше,
water
конечно,
inside
нужно
was
на него
forced up
смотреть
and
так, как
out of the
сейчас
ship.
мы на него смотрим.
After
Но в
departing
«Титанике» самая
Southampton
узнаваемая
on the
часть.
afternoon
Да.
of Wednesday, the
Вот.
10th of
Вот
April,
это вот
RMS
это
Titanic began her
штука. Она
5,360
упала
kilometers
во
journey
время
to New
того,
York
когда
City.
«Титаник»
She
уже
was due to arrive in the early hours of Wednesday, the
опускался вниз.
17th of
То есть
April,
его
but with
течением,
calm
вот
ocean
это
conditions
вот
and good weather,
течением
it was
ударило.
possible she could arrive early
Она
on Tuesday evening
оборвалась и
instead.
упала на «Титаник» и проломила,
The night of the
получается,
14th of April was
ему
moonless, and a light fog was developing on the horizon.
верхние вот эти
Titanic's
верхнюю
captain
палубу.
Edward Smith had received a number of ice
Вот
warnings
так вот.
during the day and had changed their course so they were further south to
Тут у
avoid
нас
the
там опять
affected areas.
фигачит в домофон, как
The
всегда.
captain retired to bed, and First Officer William Murdoch took charge of the bridge as officer of the watch. Titanic steamed ahead through the night while lookouts Frederick Fleet and Reginald Lee searched the horizon for small ice. They were standing here in the crow's nest when at 11:40 p.m. Fleet spotted an iceberg
Я
directly
думала,
ahead.
что это будет,
He rang the warning bell 3
знаете, как
times
будто
to
мы будем
indicate an
плыть по
obstacle
«Титанику»
ahead
там
and
по
phoned the bridge.
мачте
Murdoch gave the order,
вперед
hard a starboard,
смотрящего.
and the
Ну да.
ship turned to port. But it was too
То, о
late.
чем говорил Максим
Titanic struck the iceberg on her starboard
в самых
side.
начальных
The
трансляциях.
impact buckled
Когда вы
hull
спорили,
plates and
что это
sheared
именно,
rivets,
ты думал, что это
revealing her
кран,
6
это
compartments to
мачта.
the ocean. You can see here the remains of the crow's nest platform and the mounting bracket for the bell above the access hole. The bell and telephone can be found lying in the debris field. The lookouts would climb up a ladder on the inside of this mast to reach the crow's nest. Both Lee and Fleet didn't believe Titanic had struck the iceberg hard and thought it was just a close shave. They didn't realise the seriousness of the situation until they arrived on the boat deck and were ordered into lifeboats.
Но, ребята, очень жаль. Воронье гнездо. Джеймс Кэмерон говорил, что ему очень стыдно за то, что он
We are now heading down the number 2 hatch to reach the main cargo hold and mailroom.
за то, что он там
We're passing by
восхищался
decks
некоторыми
D, E,
картинами,
F and
потому
G,
что он
which
говорит, это
house
очень
the
страшно,
third-class open space
очень
and
много людей
cabins for
погибло,
third-class
это
single men and
очень
crew.
ужасное число.
Third-class single
И
women and
радоваться тому,
families
что
were
ты увидел
accommodated in the
«Титаник»,
stern.
это очень глупо. Это
The
могила,
D-deck
ребят, мы
open
сейчас
space
в
was a
могиле.
large sheltered area
И
with bench
представляете, я
seats,
вот
small
только
tables and
сейчас
a bar.
узнала, вот вчера только узнала,
Steerage
что
passengers used this space to walk,
что
socialize
обувь,
and to listen to
которая
music.
есть на «Титанике»,
They were
которая
expected to
валяется,
create their own entertainment,
это на
and some
самом деле
passengers brought their
трупы.
instruments with them on the
Трупы
journey.
людей, потому
The
что
third-class
со
passengers
временем
held a dance party here on the
скелеты
night
все
of the sinking.
размылись и превратились
The crew staying
вот
in
в
this
эту труху,
section were
которую мы
mostly
сейчас видим
firemen,
перед вами.
trimmers and greasers.
И обувь
These
осталась,
crewmen
потому что
worked in the
обувь,
hot and dirty boiler and engine rooms,
покрыта каким-то
shoveling coal
специальным,
and greasing
то
machinery.
ли кислотой, то ли
Because
каким-то
of this,
лаком,
they had their
что
own special
вот
wash
это
areas and slept in rooms away from passengers.
вот
They
это вот,
accessed their work areas
оно
through a
не разъедает
passageway
обувь.
under the cargo hold below.
Поэтому это, ребята,
Titanic contained 15 bulkheads,
это
thick walls that separate her
могила.
lower decks into
Где
16
мы видим
watertight
обувь, это
compartments.
могила людей.
It was a new design technique that meant Titanic could stay afloat with up to 4 of her compartments damaged and led to her being considered unsinkable.
Кэмерон убил
Unfortunately,
момент,
the collision with the iceberg
такого не
opened
было.
6 compartments. Within the first 15 minutes, this cargo hold was underwater, and the third-class accommodation on G deck above was starting to fill with water. This hold was used to store cargo for passengers and businesses being transported across the Atlantic. Among the crates of fabrics, furniture and food products, there were also a few unusual items, including orchids, dragon's blood, barrels of mercury and a brand new Renault automobile. Some of the more expensive items being carried included Egyptian artefacts heading for the Denver Museum, the Rubaiyat of Omar Khayyam and the Le Circassiano Ben painting by Blondel. These items were most likely held in the first-class baggage area next door, but were lost along with the mailroom when that section filled with water 20 minutes after the collision. We are now going to head through to the mailroom on the other side of this bulkhead. RMS Titanic was registered as a Royal Mail steamer and contracted to transport mail across the Atlantic. RMS liners were favourable with passengers as they were considered more reliable to arrive at their destination on time. Titanic had a mailroom and post office on board, with 5 dedicated post office workers. This team consisted of 2 British and 3 American clerks, and together they sorted up to 60,000 letters per day. John Jago Smith and James Williamson were from the British Royal Mail, and William Gwynn, John March and Oscar Woody were from the US Postal Service. They worked in both this room and the sorting room upstairs, and their sleeping quarters can be found above on F deck. There were roughly 200 bags of registered mail and 3,500 standard mail bags on board, meaning a total of roughly 7 million pieces of mail and 700 parcels were lost in the sinking. The iceberg damage ran directly across the starboard side of this room, leading to this space flooding early in the night. The 5 clerks worked tirelessly to try and save the mail, and managed to carry 200 mail bags up these stairs to the sorting room. Only a few minutes later, the water had reached this level, and they moved what they could to D deck. Their final movements aren't known, and sadly, all 5 mail clerks died in the sinking.
Это кондиректор White. White Star. Позорно спасся с тонущего корабля. Ой. Что это? Где это мы? Ага. Во.
As the iceberg slid down the side of the ship, Murdoch ordered a hard aport, swinging Titanic's stern out of the path of the iceberg. He also closed the watertight doors, isolating the flooding to those damaged compartments. The forward 3 hatches, along with the peak tank and boiler rooms 5 and 6, were breached. The openings were long and thin, where the iron plating had separated and exposed a total area of little over 1 metre squared. After the collision, RMS Titanic stopped and almost immediately took a starboard list. The captain organised a group to go below and inspect the ship for damage. When they returned, Chief Designer Thomas Andrews was summoned to the bridge and given the damage report. Knowing the volume of each breached compartment and the initial rate of flooding, he calculated Titanic would sink within 60 to 90 minutes. The captain gave the order for the lifeboats to be prepared. Passengers who were woken by the impact were starting to make their way onto the decks. Many found large chunks of ice here on the forward well deck, and shaved ice falling through open portholes on C deck. Third-class men had an impromptu football match, and first-class passengers joked about keeping pieces of ice as souvenirs for the journey. While exciting, passengers didn't believe they were in any danger, and most returned to their cabins soon after. We're now moving up to the bridge and then over to the Marconi radio room. RMS Titanic was not only luxurious, but also the height of technology at the time. She had a Marconi radio set on board and could send messages to other ships and stations up to 3,200 kilometres away. The fore and aft masts suspended the Marconi twin T-type aerials, 4 cables that transmitted the radio signals across the ocean.
Может быть, это
The top of this
сумасшествие?
mast rests on the collapsed navigation bridge,
Понятное
where the
дело,
officer
что
of the watch
третьему
would
классу не
stand and
дадут
direct the ship.
возможность
The smaller, sheltered room at the
спастись.
back was called the wheelhouse, and it was here the quartermaster stood at the helm and piloted the ship. You can see the outline of the wheelhouse walls on the floor.
Да, так 800 это
This
самый дешевый
telemotor
билет,
is
да,
all that
$800
is left
это
of the
самый
wheel,
дешевый билет.
and along with the commemorative
Сколько
plaques,
это, если на
serves
наши
as a
денежки,
stark
ну, где-то
reminder of
1020
the events of that
рублей.
night.
20
Titanic
тысяч.
carried just 20 lifeboats,
Поедем
4
в круиз
more
на
than
втором
required by the
Титанике.
regulations
Поехали.
outlined by the British Board of Trade.
Вот.
There were 14 regular wooden lifeboats,
Тут там еще,
2
видите,
smaller
нужно
cutters,
до Дубая
and
доехать.
4 Engelhart collapsible boats. The total
И потом,
capacity of these
когда вы в
lifeboats was
Нью-Йорк
only
попадете, то есть из Нью-Йорка нужно потом домой.
1,178 people, far less than the
Не
total
факт,
on
что еще
board.
будет билет. Да вы думаете,
This
что все
fact
еще
must
могут
have weighed
туда
heavily on the
поехать?
captain's
Ну сколько
mind
там?
as he
2000
specified the boats to be filled with women and children
сколько
first.
людей там могут
Many passengers
поместиться?
refused to board
Ну вот
lifeboats,
смотрите, столько
believing they
билетов
would be
есть.
safer on board Titanic. Just over an hour after the collision,
Покупка
the
билетов,
first
насколько я знаю,
lifeboat
уже
left the
открыта.
sinking ship.
То есть уже можно
By 2 a.m.,
их купить.
only her 4 collapsible lifeboats remained unlaunched.
Вот.
This is Davit number 1,
Занимается
the only
строительством
Davit remaining in a standing
Титаника.
position on the wreck.
Фирма
It was used by
называется
First Officer Murdoch to lower Lifeboat
что-то
1
Star.
and Collapsible C, and was in the process
Не
of
White
lowering
Star.
Collapsible A when the bridge suddenly
Star.
ducked under the water at 2:15 a.m.
Как-то
The
что-то тоже со
officers,
звездой
crew,
связано,
and
то ли
passengers alike were washed
ли
from the decks by
Star.
the resulting wave,
White?
and the lifeboat
Ну, не
floated
White
away
Star, это
upright
точно.
and empty. This hole is where the forwardmost funnel was situated. As the bow dipped under the surface, the funnel fell forward and crushed the starboard bridge wing and the people swimming in the water nearby.
2200 человек.
The stern rose out of the water, peaking at an angle of around 15 degrees.
Вот.
This placed stress on Titanic's
Это
keel,
место, на
which
котором
buckled and
затонул
twisted,
Титаник,
tearing
оно
the ship in
очень само
half
по
and
себе
sending the waterlogged bow plummeting to the ocean floor.
очень
The tear
загадочно.
wasn't clean,
Почему?
with the
Потому
decks failing to
что
hold at varying
как нашли
positions.
обломки в
The stern, now rapidly filling with water,
1985 году.
bobbed on the surface for a
Буду
few
вам
minutes
брать, но вот это
before
какой-то
slipping
из этих
under.
годов.
Those in
Потому что
lifeboats had
в
rowed far
Америке
away from the
затонули две
ship for fear of
подлодки.
being pulled under by the suction as
И
Titanic
они
sank.
затонули где-то
They were now
недалеко от
left to decide
Титаника.
whether they remain safe in their boat
Буквально в
or
нескольких
try to rescue
километрах.
some of the
То есть это
1,500
какое-то
people
реально
floating in the
какое-то место,
freezing
на
water.
котором
If they returned to the
пропадают
wreckage,
корабли.
they risked being capsized by panicked swimmers trying to climb into their lifeboat. It was a hard decision,
Поэтому, ребят,
and
если
many
он поедет
decided
тем
the
же
risk
путем,
was too great. Only
не
3
дай
boats
бог.
pulled people from the ocean that night.
Но я говорю, если у меня будет возможность,
Most
я
people in the
поеду.
water
Буду
succumbed to
транслировать там,
hypothermia within 15 to 20
в
minutes,
Инстаграм, в
their life
Ютуб, не
belts
знаю,
keeping
что у
them
меня там
afloat.
будет на тот
Few
момент.
managed to make their way to the unlaunched collapsibles
Я
A
уже
and
маму
B
предупредила,
and
говорю,
pulled
ты дура.
themselves aboard. Here they waited, in the dark, not knowing how long they would be floating on the open sea. The opening ahead of us is the Marconi room skylight. We're now going to descend into the room to
Мою
learn
почку
about
не
the rescue.
возьмут. Она уже воспалена. Все, она уж там скукоженная. Врачи говорят, ой, она вся такая скукоженная от этого, от воспаления. Оу. Здрасте. Здравствуйте.
Throughout the night, senior operator Jack
девушки.
Phillips worked the 5-kilowatt Marconi wireless radio set to
Так.
send out distress signals
Радиорубка.
using both the old CQD and new SOS call codes. He alerted nearby ships to their position and status and
Здесь
received
нас
updates of ship locations and
отправляли сигналы.
estimated arrival times. Junior operator Harold Bride took these updates to Captain Smith and passed the captain's responses back to
Мою
Phillips
почку
for
только
transmission.
комбинат возьмут, господи.
RMS Carpathia radio operator Harold Cottam was off duty
Смотрите, как
and about to go to bed
сохранились
when he
рядышки.
decided to listen in to the nightly news from Cape Cod. Operators there mentioned they had ice warnings for Titanic, and Cottam decided to pass on the message. He was surprised when Phillips responded to his call with a CQD and gave Titanic's location. Cottam immediately took the message to Carpathia's captain, Arthur Rostron, who ordered all hands on deck and told Cottam to let Titanic know they were on their way. These calls for assistance were only possible with the help of the Titanic's engineers working down in the ship's engine room. The dynamos powered the ship's lights, water pumps and Marconi equipment. As Titanic took on more water, her engines began to fail, and the signal strength weakened. Bride adjusted the current and motor speed to find the strongest spark, while Phillips tested the equipment in the room next door.
Вот, а строить его, точнее, построил его какой-то там миллиардер. Арабский миллиардер. О, Господи.
When water reached the boat deck, the operators left their station, with Bride heading towards the port bow and Phillips to the starboard stern. After the wave washed over the decks, Bride found himself in the water underneath collapsible B and managed to climb aboard. Phillips was lost in the sinking.
Вызов принят.
RMS Titanic was carrying an estimated 2,208 passengers and crew, with only 712 surviving the disaster. Those who survived spent the night floating in darkness until RMS Carpathia arrived around 4 a.m. Captain Rostron had pushed the Cunard liner to break her speed record, but it wasn't enough. Titanic had sunk before Carpathia arrived, and they found 20 lifeboats at Titanic's location. Unfortunately, the exact number of victims is unknown, as there were many last-minute ticket purchases and cancellations, and the documentation was lost along with the ship. Of the 1,317 known passengers, over half were travelling third class, or steerage as it was called. These passengers couldn't access the boat deck without entering second class or crew areas, meaning many were unaware how to get to the lifeboats and escape the sinking. Passengers from different classes were strictly separated and not allowed to visit each other's areas. This was mainly for health and immigration reasons, as all third-class passengers emigrating to the United States were taken to Ellis Island for a health check and processing before being allowed to enter the mainland. The US government was concerned about diseases entering the country, and all ships transporting people to the United States had to adhere to the segregation laws. First and second class passengers had no issues making their way to the boat deck, as staircases provided both classes direct access. This forward grand staircase is one of the most iconic spaces within the ship, and linked the floors accessible to first class from the boat deck through to F deck. Each deck contained stylised cabins, common spaces, and state-of-the-art facilities.
Так сказать, течением вот этим вот напором вырвало пол, и он просто как консервная банка прям чух накрылся. У меня прям насморк начался. То ли от волнения, не знаю. Ой, медуза, медуза.
A deck comprised of the first class lounge, promenade, reading room and smoking room. The first class smoking room contained the only functional fireplace on the ship. All cabins and other passenger areas of the ship contained either false fireplaces or electric heaters. B deck included the two millionaire suites, the largest suites on the ship, both with private promenades. This deck also included the a la carte restaurant and Café Parisien, both managed by restaurateur Luigi Gatti. This restaurant and cafe were not included in the travelling fare like the dining saloon, and tables needed to be booked ahead of time.
Красиво, смотрите, какие колонны там классные.
C deck was known as the shelter deck and contained first-class accommodation along with the first-class barbershop, inquiry office and purser's office. It was the highest deck to run the length of the ship uninterrupted. There were 135 first-class cabins and 2 sitting rooms on this deck, able to accommodate up to 315 passengers. Like all other decks on Titanic, there were no room number 13. The deck also contained the second-class library and third-class general and smoking rooms. These were situated in the stern section, currently located 600 metres south of the bow. There were 2 purser's offices on board, one for first class and one for second class. The offices were run by 6 pursers who handled passenger inquiries, cash and valuables in the safe, and issued tickets to the Turkish Baths and swimming pool on F deck. First and second class passengers needed to register their arrival at their respective purser's office, and they were given maps of the ship. This office was also the first point of call if first-class passengers wished to send telegraph messages using the new wireless technology on board. Chief Purser Hugh McElroy was well known among the first-class passengers and crew, having served on White Star liners for 13 years. He often dined alongside passengers in the restaurant. During the cross-channel journey, McElroy kept a canary in his cabin, minding it during its delivery to a friend in Cherbourg. On the night of the accident, he was seen assisting with loading and lowering Lifeboat 9. He helped women enter the boat and spoke with owner Bruce Ismay. He was also seen on deck speaking with Assistant Purser Reginald Barker and Surgeons William O'Loughlin and John Simpson. The friends were standing silently watching the last boats being lowered and spoke briefly with Officer Lightoller before shaking hands and saying their goodbyes.
Вот именно вот это место. Здорово.
The sitting room, one of the most recognisable on board Titanic, was part of a parlour suite occupied by the Strausses. It was decorated in the Regency style with mahogany furniture and gilt panels. It was the only room on board in this style, and you can still see the golden clock sitting on the mantelpiece, surrounded by debris. The bedroom next door also contained mahogany furniture, this time contrasting with the white gilt panelling and decorated in the Empire style. Isidore Strauss was one of the owners of Macy's department store, and he and his wife Ida were returning home to the United States after visiting Europe for the winter. Their adult son Jesse was travelling with his young family from New York towards Europe on board the liner SS America, and their ships crossed paths in the afternoon of the 14th of April. Isidore sent a short message to Jesse that afternoon, noting the fine weather they had experienced. Unfortunately, Jesse wouldn't learn of his parents' fate until some 4 days later.
Класс. Красиво, ребят. Она реально так выглядит. Я видела видео, где Джеймс Кэмерон спускался, смотрел, реально она так выглядит. Конечно, там на видео более темно, но здесь более светло, но точно так же все валяется, да, и точно так же скручено.
She stepped back out. Isidore and others tried to convince her to re-enter the boat, but she refused to leave without her husband. Ida helped their maid Ellen Bird into the boat and wrapped her fur coat around Ellen, saying she wouldn't be needing it anymore. Isidore and Ida were last seen sitting in deck chairs on the A-deck promenade holding hands. Isidore's body was recovered from the ocean, but Ida's was never found. The Strausses' parlour suite was just one of many specially designed first-class rooms. The 77 large staterooms were decorated in a range of different period styles. Titanic was designed to be the height of opulence, and the first-class common areas were the most luxurious. She mostly followed Olympic's design, but White Star Line made many changes to Titanic's layout and fixtures due to feedback from Olympic's maiden voyage. Some design changes can be seen on D-deck.
Так. А мне интересно, вот здесь вот что было? Здесь же не было просто вот так вот, вот такой вот пустоты. Здесь по-любому же что-то было. Да, субтитры хотя бы. Я бы вам хотя бы читала. Ну, блин, мне так жаль, что я не знаю английского, и мне лень его учить, зараза такая. Собралась она на «Титаник» второе, а английского не знает. Книжки, главное, купила, учебники. А учить, зараза, говорит, времени нет. Ленивая жопа. Нужно обязательно учить английский язык, потому что столько всего упускаю. Я бы сейчас реально сидела бы, говорила, так, ребят, она говорит вам вот это, вот это, вот это, вот это, вот это, вот это. Ой, а что это? Какая-то тарелочка красивая, вот лежит. Обалдеть. Господи.
D-deck was the saloon deck and contained the first-class reception and both the first and second-class saloons. This was also the highest deck to accommodate all 3 classes. This reception room was possibly the most utilised first-class space on the ship. It extends the full width of the ship and was decorated Jacobean style with raised ceilings, white carved panelling and dark green carpet. The arched windows on the sides allowed natural lighting during the day and were lit at night by electric lights hidden behind the glass. White wicker furniture with green cushions and potted palms completed the look, keeping the space open.
Слушайте, может, мы все-таки сейчас увидим? Вот сейчас же видите, как экскурсия такая, да? Может быть, сейчас нам покажут?
A Steinway grand piano sat in the corner and was played as part of a quintet during afternoon tea and in the evenings. Passengers would sit and listen to the band before heading to dinner in either the B-deck restaurant or through the double doors to the first-class saloon. Percy Fletcher, the ship's bugler, called passengers to their evening meals by playing the Old Roast Beef of England at various locations around the ship.
Да, даже пианино. А зря, очень красиво, могло бы быть красивее. Ай. В документальном фильме говорили, в каком месте лестница.
First-class passengers boarded and departed the ship via the gangway doors on either side of this room, or by the gangway doors directly above on B-deck. These lobbies were larger on Olympic and extended out into the reception area. During Olympic's maiden voyage, White Star officials noticed crowding in the reception area each night after dinner and decided to extend the reception area on Titanic. They also redesigned the small reception area near the B-deck restaurant to split the crowd and added additional seating in both areas. These 3 elevators serviced only the first-class passengers and ran from A-deck to E-deck. A 4th elevator was available off the second-class staircase and was the first elevator to be available for second class on any White Star liner. As no photographs exist of Titanic's forward grand staircase or elevators, it was assumed they were exact copies of those found on Olympic. It wasn't until film director James Cameron explored this area with an ROV that it was discovered the intricate design of their grills is different to that on Olympic. Not a lot of sea life lives at this depth, but since discovering the wreck we've learned quite a bit about the ones that do. So far, 24 species of invertebrates have been discovered around the wreck, including crabs, coral and sea stars. There have also been 4 species of fish found, with the rat-tail or grenadier fish being one of the more common species. They can grow up to 1 metre long and can be found both inside and outside the wreck. E-deck was also known as the upper deck and provided accommodation for first, second and third class passengers as well as most of the crew. An access corridor used by both crew and steerage ran almost the length of the ship on the port side, just behind this door. Named Scotland Road by the crew after the busy street in Liverpool, the 2.6 metre wide corridor allowed passengers to make their way to and from the dining saloons on F-deck and crew to reach their quarters. This side of the door was strictly first class only, and running down the starboard side were 45 staterooms. These rooms were alternative first or second class and were therefore not as luxurious as those on the decks above, but still comfortable. Many contained mahogany furniture with white enamelled brass beds.
Тишина. Что-то вы тоже замолчали. Ничего не говорите. И я тоже молчу. Что-то нам тут тоже хотят показать. Но здесь мы лазили с вами. Их 2 было. Кого 2? Кого две? Читаю про «Титаник» 2022 года. Носовая и кормовая. Носовая и кормовая. Кто? Кто носовая и кормовая?
This stateroom was occupied by Margaret Brown, a wealthy American activist and philanthropist. She was heavily involved in workers' and women's rights and campaigned to support those less fortunate both before and after the accident. Margaret was holidaying in Egypt with friends when she received a message that her eldest grandson was seriously sick at home in the United States. She booked the earliest ship from Cherbourg back to New York, the RMS Titanic. In her interview with Colonel Archibald Gracie, she stated she was lying on her brass bed reading at the time of the accident. She felt the bump, but didn't think much of it and kept reading. It wasn't until she heard men talking about heading up on deck that she decided to find out what happened. One of the men told her to grab her lifebelt and head up onto the boat deck with them.
Мебель. Но когда я плыла сама, постоянно за что-то.
As they made their way up, she saw a group of men manually lowering the F-deck watertight doors from the access points in the floor here, directly outside of her cabin on E-deck. The men were joking around as they worked, so she thought it must only be precautionary. Margaret helped women board lifeboats on the port side of the ship before being persuaded to join Lifeboat 6. She noticed her lifeboat was lacking rowers and organised people to take an oar. She tried to convince the passengers of her lifeboat to head back to the wreck and save those swimming, but was met with opposition from the quartermaster in charge. Once on board RMS Carpathia, she organised a 9-member survivors committee who raised compensation funds for second and third class passengers and paid for passenger telegraph messages. The committee raised over $10,000 in the 4 days' travel to New York, the equivalent of $234,000 in today's money. Margaret, along with 2 other first-class women, organised daily counselling sessions held in the dining saloon, and her fluency in French, German, Italian and Russian helped her console non-English-speaking passengers. Margaret's efforts to help others on board both Titanic and Carpathia earned her respect, as did the determination of Carpathia's Captain Rostron. At a ceremony in New York, Titanic survivors presented Captain Rostron with a silver cup and golden medal to thank him for coming to their rescue and for the hospitality shown to them on board Carpathia.
Сейчас было бы, то в принципе там могли бы и самолеты откуда-то прилететь ближайшие, конечно, навряд ли бы они успели. Вот. Не знаю, там хотя бы надувные лодки по-быстрому надули, прям шук-шук.
This watertight door is the one Margaret Brown watched being lowered from the floor above. On the other side of the door is the swimming bath and the linen storage rooms. Their state is unknown, although this area flooded around an hour after the accident and is expected to be in good condition due to the lack of water movement here. As we can see, the Turkish Baths are well preserved. This was the cooling room, and first-class passengers would relax here after using the temperate, hot and steam rooms just off the side door. Passengers would change into towels using the change rooms in the starboard corner and store any valuables in the cabinet next to the vestibule. The passenger would then make their way down to the temperate room, where they would sit or lay in the heat for 10 to 15 minutes. Here they would start to sweat before moving into the adjoining hot room. After spending another 5 to 10 minutes in the hot room, the passenger would either take a cold shower or a dip in the swimming bath next door, before making their way into the shampooing room. Here the passenger would lay on a marble table while an attendant gave them a full body wash and massage. Once dry and wrapped in clean towels, the passenger would make their way back to the cooling room where they would relax until their body returned to the normal temperature. The Turkish Baths is one of the best preserved areas on the ship, with most of the tiles, ceiling lanterns and wooden panelling still in place. The deep location within the wreck leaves it protected from destructive currents, although there is still sea life down here. The rust icicles, or rusticles, hanging from the ceiling are created by iron-eating bacteria. They come in different shapes and are incredibly fragile, disintegrating when touched. Along with the bacteria, fungi, shells, sand, clay and coal can be found within the rusticles. Scientists have been collecting samples to determine the different strains of bacteria living on the ship, and their research has been used to preserve oil and gas pipelines and safely dispose of old ships and oil rigs.
Поплыли дальше. В 2012 году у берегов Италии. Все, я поняла, о чем ты. Но она, да, она там наполовину, кажется, затонула. Я помню, по телевизору показывали.
As first-class passengers rose up this staircase and made their way out onto the boat deck, they would have passed the band playing in this alcove next to the entrance. The band consisted of 8 musicians led by violinist Wallace Hartley. They usually played separately as a quintet and string trio at varying locations throughout the day. During the evacuation, the musicians began playing near the B-deck restaurant, before later moving up to this position near the forward grand staircase. They played mostly ragtime tunes to calm passengers standing nearby and draw passengers inside up to the boat deck. Some survivors state that the band played until the end and that the night was so quiet even those in lifeboats away from the ship could hear the music. Many survivors claim that the hymn Nearer My God to Thee was the last song played, although it was also reported to be Songed Autumna. Sadly, all 8 members died during the sinking, with only 3 remains recovered by the cable ship Mackay Bennett. Wallace Hartley was one of them, found with his violin inside his case and strapped to his body. The violin was an engagement gift from his fiancée, and it was returned to her following his death. Memorial monuments have been erected around the world to honour those who died at their posts as Titanic sank. The musicians playing on deck, the passengers who loaded lifeboats and then stood aside, the firemen and engineers keeping the dynamos running.
Вот тебе и современность. Ну, понятно, значит, у второго Титаника обещанная безопасность тоже не такая безопасная. Ну, ребят, мне все равно не страшно. Хотя мама все равно...
The boilers standing here are part of Boiler Room 2 and were running until the end, powering the dynamos in the stern. A skeleton crew remained in the electrical engine room, redirecting power and keeping the lights on. This is the point where the keel failed, and the massive ship began to tear itself apart. As so much of the ship between the bow and stern sections is scattered in the debris field, it's difficult to piece together the last moments of Titanic. Even those watching it happen couldn't agree, with the inquiries held in both the United States and England producing contradicting accounts. Many expositions to find and raise the wreck were proposed over the years, with the exact location of her wreck being unknown. Titanic's coordinates sent out in distress on the night of the accident had been incorrect. On 1st of September 1985, a Canadian-French team were searching the area when Dr. Robert Ballard came across some small debris. He followed the trail which led him to a boiler and eventually the wreck. His discovery confirmed suspicions that Titanic had in fact split, and there was no hope of raising the wreck as a whole. Scientists and historians have long argued for and against the recovery of artefacts from the site, while agreeing the site should be treated as a mass grave. Although it's predicted Titanic's wreck will disintegrate within the next 20 years, her story will intrigue generations to come.
Да. Не показали, ребят. Не показали. Не показали вторую часть. Ой, ну, печально, что ж уж сказать, мои хорошие. Показали просто первую вот эту вот часть носовую. И не показали нас попочку. Не показали. Жалко. Очень жаль. Ну, что уж. Печалька. Печалька. Вот, блин, у меня отключился. Отключился компьютер. Ой, сниму. А чуть-чуть. Поехали. Все равно уже попочка там. Там же попочка. Интересная попочка. Попочка. Не знаю, мне нравится очень. Мне нравится попа. Тоже красиво. Она так трагично. Ребят, мне очень понравился сюжет. Очень понравился. Не знаю, как вам, но мне понравилось очень. Тебя не слышно, потому что я очки сняла. Я очечки сняла. Я сняла очки. Сейчас я вот так вот ходила. Тебя не слышно. Так. Ребятушки. Теперь вплыв. Наша трансляция игры «Титаник VR» подошла к концу. Но не грустите, мои хорошие. Это был финал. К сожалению, к «Титанику» мы уже не вернемся. Вот. Но мы услышимся с вами снова. Я всегда с вами. Желаю вам приятного вечера, нескучной ночи. Приятных снов и прекрасного начала дня. И его плодотворного продолжения. Спасибо за ваше внимание, спасибо за ваши комментарии. Вот. Сегодня было здорово. Еще раз скажу, что вечная память вот погибшим на «Титанике». Очень жаль, конечно, что так произошло. Спасибо за ваше внимание, ребят. Спасибо за комментарии, за лайки. Не забудьте поставить колокольчик, кто не подписан на канал. Подписывайтесь, чтобы YouTube оповестил вас о моем новом контенте. Буду очень признательна вашему лайку. Вот. Для вас ведь это ничего не значит. А для меня это шанс стать чуточку популярней в мире YouTube. Так, если кого-то заинтересовала моя личность, то информация обо мне в моем дневнике ВКонтакте, ссылка на него в шапке моего канала. Спасибо всем огромное. Всем счастья, любви, пусть только хорошее окружает вас и ваших близких, мои хорошие. Пусть все у вас будет просто замечательно. Берегите друг друга, любите друг друга. Спасибо вам огромное за игру. Услышимся и увидимся с вами завтра. Вот, завтра завтра у нас уже будет игры поинтересней, еще интереснее. То есть там уже будут такие прям сюжетики, все, мы возвращаемся в старое русло. Завтра у нас премьера новой игры Sekiro. Вот, и жизнь после. Поэтому до завтра, мои хорошие. Спасибо вам огромное, что были сегодня со мной. До скорой встречи.